And welcome to episode 6 of Distilling Greatness. My name's Kris Tatum. I'm here at the beautiful Tennessee Theater in beautiful Knoxville, Tennessee. And rejoining his seat beside me is my partner and friend, Jeff Arnett. How's it going, Jeff?
It's going great. It's good to be back with you.
Good. It's great to be back. Jeff was, I'm sure he probably would have rather been here, but he was doing some moving and hauling and all that good jazz. Will doing good?
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, so my son has been at University of Alabama in Huntsville and is going to take an internship in Denso over the summer. So we're excited to have him home with us for a few months. Then he'll have his senior year left, but he's learning Japanese. So the Denso culture should hopefully be something that actually helps him.
Yeah,
get even more excited about graduating and getting his first job.
Sweet.
And I'm really excited about his first job. I'm super excited about his first job.
That's fantastic. Well, today we're actually joined by a couple of our friends. We've got Drew McKenna and Nadim Jubran, both from One Knox, but other ventures as well. So we'll welcome you guys. Drew, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. I am originally from Chicago, born and raised there, but married in Knoxville, so found wisdom in later years. Moved here in 2020, and we've loved it. We got 3 young boys, and what a great place to be. Lucky to be here.
Nadim.
Thanks, Kris. So Jeff and I both went to the University of Alabama. Well, let's go ahead and get that out on the table. Grew up here. My mom's from here. My dad's from the Middle East, and have an older brother, and I got a beautiful wife named Callie. And really, that's the reason why Drew and I met, is through our wives. And grew up here, went away, and didn't appreciate Knoxville till I did go away, and glad to be back. So.
Well, we're glad you both are back. I know, Drew, you Chicago, like you said, coming back down. And Nadim, your family's phenomenal. Big supporter of both Tennessee Theater, but a lot of different things in the family or in the area as well. Omar was he 2 years before us in Leadership Knoxville?
Yes, he was.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. So Nadim and I met at Leadership Knoxville. We were in the same class. Unfortunate for Nadim, worst class ever, is what I've heard. But
hottest, yeah,
the hottest. I'm sorry, but So and from there, that's what led our partnership. I'm very big on calling it a partnership, not a sponsorship, with Drew and One Knox. So it's been a very good thing for us, and we feel like we're very, it's a privilege for us to be sitting here with you guys just as much as I hope it is for you all to be with us. So it's looking pretty good. So we won't go any deeper on the University of Alabama stuff. We'll leave that alone.
Thank you.
But now, Drew, and you said his roots run pretty orange, right? His blood runs orange.
Yeah,
right?
saw him with a scar in his mouth after the Bama game last year. So I know what side of the fence he's on. He's on the right side.
No doubt. No doubt.
That's fantastic. Well, another couple of interesting things. One big thing, and Jeff and I, we started this venture. It was November of 20. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, I was October the 1st. I think I was the first official employee, and November 1st you came on.
That's
so we were the first 2 company employees.
That's right, October 1, 2020. So you guys were not far before or after that, if I recall. Is that correct?
Tell us a little bit about sure. That. Yeah, so I think the first emails were spring 2019. We started thinking about this. So I've known Nadim for, 6 or 8 years through our wives. Since I started coming out of Knoxville, we've been at dinners and stuff like that. And as we thought about, my wife Maria and I thought about moving down here, the idea of bringing pro soccer to Knoxville crossed my mind. First person I called was Nadim. And so, we played our first game in 22, our first pro game in 23, but this, the exploration and conversation started when I was still living in Chicago via email in 2019. So it's been a long road, but a good road. And like you guys, we're just at the start.
That's awesome. Nadim, man, you have, it blows my mind the different things you're involved in, but one of the coolest things is one of your businesses, First Watch. Yeah. So how do you go from First Watch to let's own a soccer team?
Well, so I would not be involved if Drew hadn't been a good friend. He, again, great business person, great community-minded leader. And again, thankfully for our wives that we kind of joined. But, you can transfer skills in all kinds of businesses. And so I had never thought about sports as business. I always thought of it as entertainment. But as Drew spoke to me about these things and kind of helped me understand what sports and business do, there's a lot of transferability of skills, just like most businesses. So in general, he talks about Knoxville a lot, and I have a passion for Knoxville. I think there are many peoples in all communities across the nation that passion and love for the city is why things happen. And so to me, that was the opportunity that I could bring to the table. Drew comes with the background in sports and the understanding of how all that works. But I come with a passion. And like I told him, I don't know if it'll be a good thing for you, for me to be your partner, but hopefully so far it's been decent. We have some other great partners as well.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, anybody who knows Nadim knows everybody, right? Like that's the great thing about Nadim is he loves Knoxville so much that he's made everybody in Knoxville his friend, and so he's been a great partner to help me understand this landscape better. And I think both of us try and understand Knoxville better and what Knoxville can be.
Yeah. Just like you coming down here, I mean, Jeff,
of course, we formally announced to the public it was in the fall of 2020, but Kris and I had been friends for years before that. We'd worked together on the board for the Tennessee Distillers, and he was president, I was vice president. We had done a lot of things to improve the lives of distillers across the state, fixing old laws and everything. And then as we were kind of in that conversation, the pandemic hit. So you guys kind of were faced with that too, that you were kind of looking at a business model. And then did that make you rethink anything? Because people have asked me about that, because it actually helped us with our name, is that people weren't going out to bars and restaurants anymore. They were having home entertainment. They were having company come over, and we wanted products that we felt like were appropriate, that you would be, that you would want to share with people who matter to you.
Yeah.
That was sort of the focus of us, is that we want you to gather around with the company. You guys want people to gather around, enjoy sports. You're trying to create the same jersey out of a diverse crowd of people, right? Is what you hope to accomplish here. And we do too.
Yeah, I think the most direct way it affected us was, having started talking about it in 2019, the goal at the foundation was 2021 as our first season. And as COVID came through, we quickly thought we could take our time with this a little bit more and see if we can't catch the back end of it. So it gave us a little bit more time to take those foundational first steps, which for us were super community oriented, and it was about having Knoxville react to what we were trying to do. Having people gather around like you guys talk about, and literally whether it was on Zoom or in bars, have conversations about, hey, what should the name be? What should the brand be? Those sorts of things that help kind of educate the start of the One Knox brand.
Yeah, it's really kind of, I don't want to say eerie because that's a negative connotation, but it's really interesting, I should say, that there is some parallel to the beginnings of One Knox and beginnings of Company, and really how we came together. I mean, again, I was a last minute entry into Leadership Knoxville. I think they scraping the bottom of the barrel, and so
it's like those last rooms on the cruise ship. They go really cheap, right?
So cheap. They're like, we really need a fat bald guy on this class. Could you please help us out? You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, it's been really fun. I remember one of the first conversations we had. I think somebody said something about sponsorship, and Nikki from Tennessee Theater can say the same thing. I was like, we don't do sponsorships, we do partnerships. We can buy time wherever we need, but we need somebody that's going to grow with us, and we're going to stub our toe along the way. And it has been hard. I mean, Jeff,
we're learning.
I think the things that we thought were going to be really easy were some of the most difficult, and that was because the supply chain that had been so reliable for so long was completely destroyed. I mean, just the most basic of materials, you couldn't get them, or if you could get them, they were twice what they were normally. So you're having to rethink your whole business model and profitability and everything off that. But I think if an idea is a good idea, pandemic won't stop it, right?
Yeah.
But we had to kind of have that moment of pause where we're like, okay, can we weather that? And because we don't really know what the future holds, but we believed in it enough. But I think it was good. It was a good litmus test for us up front to say we're committed to this, and that doesn't really change our commitment to doing this.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a number of moments like that, big and small, and I think something that we both benefit from is a long-term perspective, right? If you're thinking about this as a 25-year project or a legacy type project, you can weather those tough days or years. But if you're trying to deliver, for a 2026 exit, then things are different, right? So if your long-term perspective on it, it gives you a little bit more space to try to make it work.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that being long-term, it is long-term. Jeff and I, when we got into this, it was all about the long-term because, I mean, he was a master distiller at Jack Daniels, and I had, partnerships in another distillery, et cetera. And we both were kind of going through it. And it was just an opportunity, like, hey, what if we did this different? And I think that's something we've always says, how can we do this different? And I feel like that's the same thing with you guys. How can we do this different? How can we bring something different to this area, being East Tennessee, And I think that's pretty awesome. So,
yeah, I think one of the things that kind of helped us get, an understanding of, with our partners, of what we wanted to accomplish, it was that none of us viewed this as some type of a quick flip type of idea that we had. We viewed this as being something that we were going to be at for a decade or two minimum. And potentially this is something that we would pass down to our kids if they would talk about what my parents and my grandparents built, and I'm now a part of it. And you see these brands like that are in our industry. And I think those are the ones that when you have that history and stuff like that, it just continues to build and grow. And I didn't get into this to say that I just wanted to turn it over and be gone. I've got a good 10 or 15 years to work myself. And then hopefully my kids will want to work in this someday too.
Well, and that's the thing with anytime you're starting something, you have some founding principles and things kind of you live by, some core identity items. And one thing we talk about is like what stays the same and what changes, right? There's going to be a lot of change that occurs, but our founding principles and things are things that will stay and remain. And to me, that's really what I think the team at One Knox and in any successful organization has those founding principles, and they will tweak a little bit, like you all have, I'm sure, right? Yeah. Things are going to change. The landscape's going to change. But I think from day one, Drew's done an absolutely phenomenal job of instilling these core principles to our business so we can weather those
storms
and droughts, if you will.
I think the other important point there, I don't want to hammer this too much, is the benefit of founder-led businesses, right? Among this group, we've, probably close to 10 businesses that have been started among this group, right? And that's a competitive advantage in my opinion, because when you're competing with businesses that aren't founder-led, they don't have that, that kind of internal drive or commitment that this isn't just about me working a job or trying to get promoted or trying to earn a paycheck. This is my identity. This is my legacy. Exactly. Yep. I think that's a real competitive advantage for us.
Yeah, I'd say you're dead on. And I think part of that too is the fact that, we talk about bringing people together, and it's not just bringing people together to have a drink or catch a game. It's also the influence on the community. And it's something, when we kind of pre-gamed ourselves here for this, a couple of weeks back. I mean, talk a little bit, the desire to bring people together is a theme that we talked about collectively. Tell us a little bit. We've talked pretty extensively about what we want to do at our place, our places, I should say, whether it's Middle Tennessee or East. Tell us a little bit about what you want to bring the experience to the community, to the ballpark that day, or the field. I'm sorry, It's not ballpark. Sorry,
stadium. We're good.
Stadium. And then what do you think that translates over in the community, et cetera? Because I've heard a lot of great things that you guys are doing with smaller soccer clubs, be it young age to middle school to high school, et cetera. So talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, when soccer's done best, this is global. It's certainly true in America, but it's global. When soccer's done best, it's a reflection of the community that it's in, right? It's community forward, community led. That's what's so special about European soccer when you're hearing about the Chelseas and the Arsenals. But it's also what's special about Atlanta United or Nashville SC in the MLS. It's these clubs that reflect the community that they're in. So for us, it's not just about, kicking a ball into a goal, though we hope to do that a lot. It's about being a conduit for the community to come together and rally around itself, around Knoxville. Today, that's just through soccer, but it's also through adult rec soccer here, like, kids living in the community, adults living in the community who want to keep playing, through youth soccer in Knoxville, where we've got over 1,000 kids playing inside our structure. But in the future, could it be, a concert series? Could it be a restaurant week? What other ways can we bring the community together in cool, fun, urban-oriented, opportunities? That's what One Knox wants to be long term.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
Yeah, talking about the community and stuff. I wasn't raised on soccer. Yeah. So my high school, it was baseball, basketball, football. I think my senior class maybe had the first girls volleyball. They were talking about softball, so you were starting to see some other things work their way in. But it was a while after I was out of high school before soccer ever became a thing here. But one of my first trips as master distiller when I was with Jack Daniels, this had been in 2008, 2009. I went into Hamburg, and that's the home of where St. Pauli is. Mm-hmm. So they thought that would be a fun thing. It was my first day in. I was just going to kind of rest and acclimate to a new schedule and everything. But they're like, let's go to the soccer game. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't really know the rules or anything, but it was the sense of community. I mean, they had like all of these chants and things that they would sing, and they would sing in unison. It sounded almost like a monastery choir. There's these voices being raised up as they were like, chanting their songs and stuff. You're just like, whoa, made your hair stand up.
That's about the most community-led club in the world. They are all about community. It's a really cool one to go see.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And soccer can be that platform, but there's other, platforms as well. And one thing that really intrigues me is kind of who we're in Knoxville specifically, and many communities across the United States and globally want to attract and retain talent, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that to me that got my attention was of the top 65 MSAs, there were 3 in America that didn't have pro soccer, and Knoxville was one of them. So to me, you know, we're trying to recruit and retain talent. Soccer is a younger demographic sport. And so that is really interesting. You know, one thing the chamber and a lot of chambers are doing is trying to recruit and retain talent. How do we compete in a healthy way and in a positive way with the communities that we, you know, are up against? So
yeah, I think that's a great point, because not only you're here, I hear you talking about talent, but it's not just the talent that you're putting on the field. I mean, you're bringing something totally new to Knoxville. How are you going? What are you looking for when you're bringing staff, employees, and things like that in? I mean, not things, but people like that. I mean, that's got to be a challenge as well. I mean.
It's a young man's game for sure. I mean, I think that's true of all sports, right? But soccer uniquely, the demographic of soccer is younger than the Knoxville demographic. It's younger than the American demographic. It's younger than the American sports demographic, right? And soccer is a very young sport in the States from a fan perspective. So we're trying to bring them in, but we're also trying to rally those folks who live in Knoxville that fit that demographic to rally around us, right? To gather around what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to build. And so, you know, it is a challenge trying to find folks who know how to work in professional soccer in Knoxville. You know, we are looking other places to bring them in, but, you know, as someone who was brought into Knoxville for other reasons, I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah. We've been fortunate. I mean, our staff, our staff's been fortunate. I mean, we've been fortunate with our staff big time.
We have. You know, going into Townsend, you know, a lot of people felt like it's, you know, there's seasonal work over there. And if you're going to stay open year round, you know, you may be needing to recruit people in because there's not a established workforce over there. But we had, you know, of course, we wanted to be a good paying company and give people other reasons to be a part of us. And we've had no trouble to this point of attracting people that kind of represent our brand well, which is important because that may be the first thing they know of companies when they walk through the door and never heard of us. It's not going to be me talking, not going to be Kris talking. We can easily voice the brand because we were part of creating it. But if you can get that from somebody who's just been working with you for the last year or so and they deliver it with passion, you're like, wow, okay, we are there. Yeah. And we're doing really well.
One thing that we talked about a lot, you know, early on was you can't think big after the fact, right? And so how often does a community get to announce a new professional team or a new anything? And I just remember like looking at when we did the announcement, when we unveiled the logo, when we unveiled the brand, the kits, we always tried to feel bigger than we were. And, you know, on one hand, that takes investment, but we also, again, long-term perspective. We thought it made a whole lot of sense to kind of seize the opportunity, seize the window.
Yeah.
And I was just so impressed by the support that we've received and just really cool.
I think part of it that's, you know, something that we share is, you know, pro soccer didn't exist in Knoxville. You think about what Knoxville is, right? It's a football town or it's a baseball town. It's a UT sports town. And it is that, but it doesn't mean it can't be one Knox too. You know what I mean?
Right.
It takes a little bit of guts to say, hey, we could find a home for this in Knoxville as well. I mean, similarly with you guys, right? You know, what's East Tennessee? It's moonshine. Sure, it can be moonshine, but it's also something else, right? And you guys have been able to create that space.
And that was really, you know, in the conversations that Kris and I had early is that, you know, there is a lot of competition out there already. I mean, we're not the first distillery to come to East Tennessee. There's probably 12 or 13 of them. Most of them on the Parkway in Gatlinburg or what I call more of the storefront type of distilling operation. You know, what we envisioned for ourselves was, you know, if you're on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail where you get out and you walk and there's a canopy of trees and then, you know, you're distilling here and you've got barrels there and it's a very pastoral setting. You know, we found a piece of property that had the trees had not been taken down on it, had an old brick plant on it that could be repurposed into a barrel plant, had a creek that ran the full length of it, already had a greenway kind of wrapping three sides of it. So it's like there were natural ways for people to walk up to your property. But, you know, a beautiful spot that we could develop because once again, we're kind of looking for the long term. We want a place that draws the community together, that tourists want to stop, but that locals want to adopt. You know, we want to be the home team of East Tennessee. We want to be, when you're traveling, if you live in East Tennessee and you're traveling out, that you're taking a bottle of this to say, this is something that's from Tennessee. You know, it's a gift. It's a postcard of where we've come from. So,
yeah, I think you start talking about, you know, hearing you guys talk, and you come to a spot where I think we begin to shape the community, not with what we want, but with what the community is asking for and needing. That maybe they didn't know they didn't need it, that they needed a soccer team or that they needed another distiller. That's what I think both, both of these companies are looking at to do is to help shape that community. And
I think it's like we're not a reflection of what Knoxville has been. We're a reflection of what Knoxville is and can be, right? And like Company certainly, in my opinion, has come forward with a brand that is different from the other local distilleries, different than Gatlinburg Moonshine, but it fits. It's appropriate where it is, and I think that's just like a job well done by you guys.
Well, clearly Tennessee whiskey has established itself as a nationally recognized product, a historical process that it's produced by that separates it from bourbon, but that has been solely owned by Middle Tennessee. We're like, that needs to end, and if I need to move from Middle Tennessee to East Tennessee, to help bring it there, then, I think it's one of the things I love about Tennessee is the diversity of when you drive from Memphis to Knoxville, just how much it changes. I grew up in West Tennessee, not what I would describe as the prettiest end of it, but, very heavy agriculture, very flat. I thought Middle Tennessee was beautiful, but the further you come east, it's just getting better. I just love the natural beauty of what's here. And there's no reason why this reputation for great whiskey making can't be shared in East Tennessee. It doesn't have to be monopolized in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I want to go back to something that Nadim said. He says thinking big, just like you guys have other partners, we do as well. And we were early on. This was during pandemic when, it was all Zoom and lawn chairs 16 feet apart and all that good jazz. And so we were looking at, we'd taken some shots, Jeff and I and some of the team, taken some shots about coming up with a name, and kind of had our heart crushed. We found one that seemed to fit pretty perfect, and kind of got crushed when we found out somebody else had had it for 20 years. So obviously it wasn't the most original. But anyway, with all that being said, we got this firm out of Colorado, phenomenal firm that we had, got to work with. And they sent, I'll never forget, they sent the basically the a la carte list of things they could do in pricing. And I remember seeing it, and I was like, oh God, like it was this heart pain, And Kevin, one of our partners, was like, look, man, we're going to fake it till we make it. You got to think big. And those were his words, fake it till you make it and think big. I was like, okay, here we go. So hearing you talk about at the beginning, like we're going to be bigger than maybe what we are now, but we know where we will be.
And I feel like even though that was an investment on our part, that there was a little bit of spit and polish about our brand. Even when we had our first bottle on the shelf, it's like you could kind of tell that was pretty well thought out. And that wasn't, I think it was the best of our thoughts. We were like, trying to herd goats here, with all these ideas that we had. But I think they did a really good job of throwing out some ideas that got us to consensus on something. Actually, the company name is pretty funny because people have asked me, how did you name your company? That seems... Yeah, and I said, buddy, it was not a straight path. It was, we looped around and came back around to it. It was one of maybe 30 names that we actually considered for it, but it was the one that elicited the strongest responses from the get-go. People loved it and they loathed it, and we heard both. But either way, people had an opinion about it. I'm like, that's a starting point. If we can get people past the loathing, the name's strong, and especially if we can kind of own the name company. That's pretty hard to do.
I'm always impressed when, that's intentional. That stamp on the top, right? You could have done something different, but that's intentional.
Yeah.
That says quality. That says attention to detail.
Yep.
So that, again, one of the things that I first
And if
saw.
I bottled it, the CO on the top of the cork will actually align to the face out of the bottle, too. Because that's how much they're like all my little children.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of detail.
I take pride in every bottle.
Yeah, there's a lot of detail. This is something that I love that you brought the detail of the bottle, and we'll brag a little bit. But if you also notice the chevron on the label, that actually matches the roof line of our property that we have. The first piece of property bought on the old brick building is the chevron.
Really?
So there's all these little things that over the years we'll be able to utilize and look back on details and stuff. And so again, we have this product. This is our flagship, and you can see the CO like it's there. Well, if you look at our Ghost Rail, which is our gin, the O has got the same thing. So there's all these little details that we thought through, and it was painstaking from the beginning. It really was. But yeah, thank you for noticing that. You know what I'm saying? So, but
the other thing I think part of it was, especially a lot of new brands. If you look at their label, it takes you about 10 minutes to read it. It's just, they're very busy. And I've kind of learned that I think there's a tendency that almost the less you have to say, the more you try to say, that you're kind of compensating for it. And it's like we had just a handful of people starting this company, but there was about 60, 75 years of industry experience that were kind of coming together to form it. So brand new company, but it was not our first rodeo by any stretch. And it's like, we've got way too much to say to ever fit it on that label. So let's just stick to the basics here. Let's communicate who we are, what we are. And then people, if they like the product, they'll find out who we are.
There's a confidence in that, right? Yeah. We don't need to convince you.
Yeah.
What's inside the bottle will take care of that.
Yeah. The simplicity of the packaging is part of its beauty when it comes to ours.
Yeah. And Jeff's much better. I mean, I've had people randomly, not randomly, but be talking about, oh, you're doing that distillery, right? I'm like, yeah, what's it called? Company. Well, that's stupid. Well, it's only for smart people, So I mean, I'm definitely not the guy that needs to be out there talking that, because I'll shut you down pretty quick. You know what I'm saying?
The other interesting thing about names, and we talked about this a lot in our process, is when all you have is a name, right? Or when you're early in your process, everybody has a thought on the name, but nobody questions the fact that they're called the Vols. And if today they went through a process to decide they were the Vols, everyone would love it or loathe it, right? But what they have is they've got 150 years of sporting history behind the Vols, right? And that's what people think when they think of the name. So I think, we thought it was super important to try to get it right at the beginning, but we also understood that first 5, 10, 15 years of work, that's going to define the name, right? Yeah. And for you guys, the juice is going to define the name, and you'll pick up a lot of positivity over time, and that name will mean something different in the future.
Well, and clearly you guys are reinforcing, East Tennessee as sort of your home base. That's our headquarters as well, but we thought it important enough that when we came out, we didn't lead with the Tennessee whiskey. We started with the bourbon. We did a rye. We only recently came out with our first Tennessee whiskey product, and we chose 865, 86.5 proof as its proof point, because that's, if you type Vol on your phone, that you're going to type 865. So, we're trying to own East Tennessee, and we're proud that we're here. Even though I graduated from Alabama, I bleed orange too. It's true.
Yeah, I know.
I do.
Well, Jeff, you said something earlier. The locals adopt, but the visitors stop. And that really strikes a tone with me, because we have to locally adopt things, right? I just think about brands and other communities that have done such a good job. It's probably because the community adopted it up front, right? There's probably a lot of hard times before it became a big brand. And so, I think that's a really important indicator, is we have to support what we've done in order for it to become something we want it to become.
And I clearly feel like we've had some home field advantage here from the time we've launched. If you look at how we've done in East Tennessee, particularly, we've probably over-indexed.
Good.
For a brand that's launched new. So we had some historical data from one of our partners who'd worked in distribution. He kind of told us what to expect, and we really outperformed that. So that kind of tells you that people feel like we are the home team here. But, for what we want to accomplish, you need to own your home field. You need to, be undefeated on your home field, but then you've got to be able to get out. You got to be able to travel. You got to, we need distribution. We need to be multi-state. But we're probably never going to achieve that if people in East Tennessee don't say good things about us, right? And feel like we're a product worthy of talking about, because we're a connected society anymore. I mean, one person, people can, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever, reach thousands of people. And if they have followers, it's amazing how much their opinion will sway what people think. So, we're trying to make friends everywhere we can, and hopefully our products support what we say about them. And that is, it's something worthy of sharing with people who matter to you.
Yep. The thing, you're talking about adopting locally. That's something that I'm really proud of what we've done when we've approached our partnerships. Tennessee Theater is a great example of somebody that's of a group that is being adopted more and more locally, if you will. I mean, we talked about it in other episodes, how the theater has evolved from just being this push their movies kind of place, and now it's a community spot that very diverse in everything it does, whether it's music or comedians or plays or whatever. So that local adoption kind of deal is big for us. And that's why, again, partnerships with One Knox, which we're going to be talking and announcing soon, as well as Tennessee Theater, those are big things for us. And we also have a good partner in our distributor. I want to say that, which is kind of weird, because in our industry, distributor supplier relationships aren't always great, but ours has been great. Tennessee, they've been phenomenal. We've got a great go in Texas as well. We've got several more states coming out throughout the rest of the year. So we're continuing with that same mentality of the same philosophy as, hey, we're going to be local. We want somebody that believes the same about being local and being there. So
yeah, you can have the best product on the planet, but if you don't have a distributor that will carry you, you're dead. You're dead in the water. So finding the right partners is mission one for us. I mean, it's critical for us for the next few years, because we're about ready to go from, where we are right now to quadrupling that just in the next 18 to 24 months. Yeah.
So let's talk about what I love to talk about, which is my hatred for Kentucky. So,
we're ready.
I'm just kidding. So I have some really great friends up there. But in all seriousness, in a couple months, we've got a big day coming up. Tell us what's going on the 18th of August of this year.
August 18th will be the culmination of the Battle for the Barrel. So we announced at the start of our season that we have a fellow expansion club in USL League One, our league, Lexington Sporting Club. We came in the league together. Our first game was against each other, and we announced that our budding rivalry is going to have a trophy. It's going to be a barrel and a bottle of our local fare. So for us, that's obviously Company. The line we're going with is bourbon is better in Tennessee, which we think is true. And so they haven't taken kindly to that, which is the point. And so on the 18th at Regal Soccer Stadium, where we play our home games on the campus, University of Tennessee, is the third and final game of that matchup. We're in the lead right now. They're a good side. They've gotten better throughout the year, but hopefully we'll be lifting a barrel at the end of that game. Might take two of our soccer players. We're not football players, and those things are heavy, but hopefully we're lifting a barrel.
Yeah. Well, I can remember when we were talking about doing the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, and then the Kentucky Bourbon Trail had already been in existence for a decade or so. But it was that, they've got bourbon and horses, and Tennessee has everything else.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's all they got.
But now we got bourbon, so
that's right.
For their horses.
I'll tell you, you got to look back when we launched, the Tennessee Whiskey Trail in 2017. It was a great time for all, and the state was behind it, etc. And I remember that after that, I might have talked a little smack and told that it was Kentucky was time to step aside and let us lead the way. Yeah. Well, that actually ended up in the KDA meeting, their industry meeting, twice. So this should be huge. We got to get everybody out there to support this and keep the bourbon barrel where it needs to be, which is here in Tennessee. So,
and our hope, this is something that, 15, 20 years, we're still fighting for the barrel.
Absolutely.
And always through partnership with Company. One of the things that's fun about partnership with One Knox, we hope, is that, sports can be fun, right? There's a lot of time for seriousness in life, but let's find fun ways to kind of poke the bear a little bit and talk some trash. And obviously that's something that we're hoping to do with Company for a long time.
I agree, and it is fun. We've done it. We were pretty proud. We had a ton of original hits. We actually had a state senator say, I think he just came out and straight up said, "Kentucky bourbon sucks." And we were like, "Oh God, that's not as deep as we wanted to go." But buddy, he stood by it, and it was fantastic.
He took some of the heat off of you. I do know that.
He did.
You were very grateful for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of fun, last year we got to, when we were playing at Maryville College, we got to do an event with you all through another, close partnership and friendship at RT Lodge.
Hell yeah.
That was so fun. So if you don't like soccer, but you like food and drink and you like having fun, we have a place for you.
We did.
That's
exactly it. That's man. I'd forgotten about that. That was a pretty big. I mean, it ended up being pretty big.
Yeah,
I got a ton of texts.
People.
Yeah, I started to say I had a ton of texts come in about, man, this is phenomenal. I hope you guys do something down the road. And I don't think we had done anything official with you guys at that point.
Was that almost a year ago?
It was about a year ago. Yeah, we didn't have any official partnership. It was just, hey, this is a cool way to put two brands together. It's through your guys' leadership, Nadim, and I'm just trying to figure out, Kris, the right way to bring it together. And it was definitely a benefit for us. And I think that was what started this year's conversation.
Yeah.
Well, you were fortunate because our sales and distribution partner, he loves soccer.
Yeah.
He's a mega fan. So
Nathan's a huge fan. Nathan is a massive fan. Oh yeah, a massive fan. So it's been good. So it's definitely been great. And I love the fact that we have approached it not from give me a list of how many X, Y, and Z I get or whatever, to what makes sense for both sides. And I think that's important. I think that's important in whatever we do from a local community area is what makes sense for everybody involved, not just, the person with the mic at the time. And I think that's important overall, So tell us a little bit about the future. What do you guys got coming up? And then I'm going to hit Jeff with the same thing. We got some things to talk about. So what do you guys got coming up?
Yeah, hopefully, a lot more soccer down the road. So, for the next 2 years, we'll be playing at University of Tennessee. In 2025, we'll be moving into the new downtown stadium, which we're really excited about. Hopefully between now and then, we're going to add a women's team, which will be fun. Something for the girls to aspire to as well. This summer, we're starting our youth club, so over 1,000 kids will be playing One Knox Youth Soccer. Yet another reason to add a girls team, so both the boys and girls have something to aspire for. From there, who knows, right? We want to be active in creating cool opportunities for young people in urban Knoxville to have fun and get together and gather around. So that could take a lot of different shapes. But yeah, for us, it's about being successful on a day-to-day basis, so we can be successful long term.
That's fantastic. We real quick, my sons, Carter and Connor, both play basketball. They are big basketball fans. Carter's my oldest, and he's a big kid, tall, and so we tried soccer, and he's really tall, and so everybody else was really fast. But because he was so tall and he was so strong, he'd kick the ball from one end to the other, and it would hit. So we go to the quote championship game, and there's this little kid, and this kid is fast, and he's running circles around my son. Well, he didn't like it, so he just laid him out. And so we stopped playing soccer at that point. Yeah. And so I tell this story because the same little kid that got laid out, we now subsequently play basketball with on the same team, and he's also a soccer guy. And they were very the parents were talking about your all's involvement, One Knox's involvement in the soccer community for youth, and how great that's been, and that they're looking forward to that. So just a big shout out there for what you are doing for the community as well.
Yeah, glad to hear it. I mean, the youth soccer is huge everywhere, and so for us to be a part of that and try to grow the game here locally is really important.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we just came off a couple weeks ago of having Tennessee Whiskey Trail, International Tennessee Whiskey Day, etc. Yep. We launched our 3-wood. Tell us a little bit about the 3-wood and what's coming down the road.
Yeah, so to me, this has always been sort of the portfolio that I'd wanted Company to do. It seemed like when we first came out that the smartest thing for us to do was to lead off with bourbon. We did a maple wood finish on it. Around the Grains and Grits Festival last year, we came out with our first cast strength version of it, but also did a cherry wood finish dry. So kind of using a different liquid and a different wood finish that we felt complemented that. But then as we were thinking about when would Tennessee whiskey be appropriate to launch, it would be on International Tennessee Whiskey Day. So this recognizes that May 21st of 1937 is when the state overturned Prohibition. It's what allowed our industry to reopen. So every distiller in the state kind of benefits from that decision. But to come out with our first one, it's called the Tennessee 3-wood. So it goes through the Lincoln County process of hard sugar maple charcoal filtration. It's come from a charred oak barrel. And then we decided to do an apple wood on it. So those are the 3 woods that are part of it. 86.5 proof, 865, the area code of East Tennessee. So that kind of makes it a fun one too. But I think we've got a really nice portfolio across those 3 right now, and hopefully something for everyone. So kind of what's next for us, of course, we're getting into the warm months of the year. So if people come out to Townsend, we do have beer that's produced locally there, a really nice Deutsche Brew system. So if you're into local beers, we do very traditional German style, slow lagering type processes. So high quality beer there. We're coming up close to our 1-year anniversary. So we officially opened in Townsend on July the 8th of last year. So stay tuned for potentially some drink specials and things that we'll be doing around that weekend again. And then, of course, always a big deal for us to plan for the Grains and Grits Festival. That'll be coming up in November, a chance to come out to Townsend, usually leaves changing, and we will be planning for a new special release of Company for that event as well.
Fantastic. You guys should come out there for Grains and Grits for sure. In fact, I'm inviting you now. We will peer pressure you to be there. You should definitely bring. It'd be great to bring your wives and friends as well. It's a fantastic time in Townsend. Great food. We have a couple of James Beard chefs as well. A lot of local RT Lodge. Chef Trevor's there, and a bunch of different local chefs are there. It's a fantastic time. So
I've heard that.
Encourage you guys to come out and try that out. And I think that's going to about wrap us up because we've got to try some of this. We can't really do that and talk at the same time. So
I've been working on it.
I've been nipping, but I was saving some for you guys.
So, hey, cheers. Appreciate you guys being here so much.
Here's
to gathering around.
Gathering around. Thanks, guys.
Great partnerships.